relax, be cool. Cause if you don't, you'll act like a fool, so be cool.
Hey guys, welcome to Get Busy Watching. I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. In commemoration of the upcoming sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, I'm taking a look back on the original. Oh man, we lost a good one, didn't we? Ain't thrilled about it, and honestly, I'm not looking forward to seeing the Black Panther legacy continue without him, but here we are, carry on we must, so let's just get right to it. This is my honest opinion of Black Panther. Set not long after the events of Captain America: Civil War, T'Challa of Wakanda, aka Black Panther, played by the late Chadwick Boseman, is crowned the new king of Wakanda. His first mission is to bring in Ulysses Klaue, played by Andy Serkis, who had stolen some vibranium and killed a few Wakandans years ago. The capture fails and a new threat emerges in the form of Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, an abandoned Wakandan when his father was killed by T'Challa's father as a child. He returns to Wakanda to usurp the throne from T'Challa and use Wakanda's valuable resources and advanced technology to give to oppressed people to overthrow their tormentors.
I found my daddy with panther claws in his chest. You ain't the son of a king, you a son of a murderer.
I think now that the initial dust is settled from when I first saw this movie, it's clear to me now that there are some flaws that I might have overlooked at the time. Still, with that said, I think it is a damn fine addition to the MCU and a pretty good superhero film in its own right. Now, let's talk about that prologue, because there are some things in there that you can probably only enjoy in hindsight now that time has gone by. For example, Sterling K. Brown. I keep forgetting that he's in this movie. One may argue that it was Marshall, yet another Chadwick Boseman vehicle, that shot his career to the rich one that it is today, but it still tickles me to see him in this, since I know him best from The Predator and Waves. It's sad that I forget that he's in this because he delivers a pretty solid performance too. N'Jobu is clearly a man who feels strongly about uplifting oppressed people, and doesn't feel proud of betraying Wakanda. In a very short amount of time, you know his external and internal conflict, and the writing, directing, and Brown's talent all do a fantastic job of stealing the scene. And that's just the opening. There's still a whole ass movie to talk about.
Because I want you to look me in the eyes and tell me why you betrayed Wakanda.
I did no such thing.
The opening action sequence is also pretty solid as well, almost flirting with a horror feel, beating people up in the dark, strobe light machine gun fire with some surprisingly bad CGI. Okay, hold up. Let's talk about the bad CG in this movie real quick. No one should be holding the CG artists accountable for this. Bear in mind, good CG takes a lot of time to make right. You can argue talent plays a part, but even the most talented can't work under a time crunch, and that's been a staple of the MCU for quite some time. It's been well documented of late that the companies that got Emperor Disney or Marvel Studios, whoever making these decisions that hire the CG artists, are overworked, understaffed, and wildly competitive with no guarantee of rehire if they decide to pass, because they know if another company takes the job, they'll be just as hungry for work, and obviously, the multi-billion-dollar corporation is going to go with whatever's easier and convenient. And since these movies love coming out in threes every year, you can imagine how maddening it must be to work under a specific deadline with little to no room to breathe and make the CG look polished. Remember, God Emperor Disney is worth over $200 billion. Billion! With a B. They could finance Avengers Endgame, a $365 million movie 10 times, make zero profit in revenue, and still have triple-digit billions left over to finance another 10 Avengers Endgames, and still make no money off of them, and still be fine.
We can all agree that the scene isn't very well done, but do you know why that ended up being the case?
Yeah,
this whole scene they shot in October, and by the time the visual effects company got it, it was like December. They only had about 6 weeks to do this entire scene.
They probably got a good paycheck out of it.
Can't guarantee that because you're going overtime doesn't mean you'll get paid for it. That's just the state of the visual effects industry.
Look, as a consumer, I love watching superhero movies, and it's impressive that they can belt them out 3 times a year. But at the human cost, I can't stand that shit. There's a reason now I almost refuse to see them in theaters. Marvel, God Emperor Disney, they don't need my money. They don't need me to subscribe to their bullshit subscription service for their barely improved content. Looking at you, Thor Love and Thunder. Fuck off, House of Rat. If you can't afford to give these artists a break, then I can't afford to give you my money. To all the CG artists that put thankless time, blood, sweat, and tears into these things, I'm sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm sorry I didn't look into it sooner. Every last one of you deserved better then, you deserve better now, and you will always deserve better. And now, back to the movie. I remember back when this first came out, I praised it for how the comedy is toned way back for this outing. To that, I still hold. But every so often, the comedy doesn't always land. Specifically, this interaction between Panther and Nakia, him getting all tongue-tied around her. I get it's supposed to establish their romantic relationship, but 2 things. 1, there had to be a more mature way to get that across. Actually, the whole reason Panther's there had its underlying subtext, asking her specifically to come to his crowning. It really didn't need the cutesy, hi.
Hi.
And 2, it kills the tone. It's perfectly fine to let scenes play out without forced comedy. It's a single moment that shouldn't matter that much, but the MCU does have this problem, especially post-Avengers Endgame.
Did he freeze?
Like an antelope in headlights. Are you finished?
Now, we gotta talk about the visuals. No, not the CGI. I know I just went into a huge rant about that. I'm talking about when things are actually holding still, or when it's practical, or mostly practical sets. That's where I think this movie really shines in that department. I love the architecture of the buildings and their ships flying around. The fashion is a trip. The Wakandan language, which is a real language called,
Well, I'm not even going to attempt that.
but it's one of the official South African languages. Does that mean there's unofficial ones? Look, I'm in a Western bubble. I don't know shit outside my own house, let alone in another whole-ass country. And let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, the lower lip plate is a real thing. Ouch. Fun fact though, this dude was wearing a prosthetic that took hours to put on. Props to actor Isaac De Bancoli. You are a trooper, sir, for what must have been one of the more thankless roles in the movie.
The River Tribe will not challenge today.
And now, let's talk about the easiest praises, the performances. Across the board, everyone brings their own flavor of charm and awesomeness to the table. Let's start with Boseman. The man knows how to act. You know what gets me? T'Challa doesn't have much of a character arc. From when we first see him to when we leave him by the end of the flick, there isn't much of a difference. If I had to stretch it, he's hesitant about sharing Wakanda's stuff with the world, and then he's fine with it. I don't know, there's something there about acknowledging the sins of the father, wanting to be better than that, and even correct it. Between Panther and Killmonger, as limited as their interactions are, I do like what we get. The complete polar opposite viewpoints of one who is just trying to do his kingly duties, and the other, a radicalized asshole who thinks it's the Civil War era, it's a fun game of back and forth between these two characters. And certainly the two actors. It's electric, making both of them look good. Denai Guerrera as Okoye is badass and oh so likable, even with her ridiculous wig.
Quickly, and I can get this ridiculous thing off my head.
It looks nice. Just whip it back and forth, eh?
What?
No, shut the fuck up. Of all the black artists in the history of history, this movie couldn't help itself but reference one of Will Smith's kids? Someone help me understand why this annoying-ass song had to be referenced in Black Panther. Oh, right. So long as the kids enjoy it, who cares about quality?
Just whip it back and forth, eh? Share what we have. We could provide aid and access to technology and refuge to those who need it. Other countries do it, we could do it better.
Martin Freeman as CIA agent Everett K. Ross. Okay, stop. Everything stops. I know it's fashionable to dislike the Hobbit trilogy, but can we just let our hearts out and love that there's a cute homicidal reunion between Bilbo and Gollum here? Just, please, can we not hate something and just love something else, please? And for Freeman being one of two prominent white boys in this movie, he's given a pretty solid arc. Probably the best one in the movie. From when we first see him, a dude who is straight up a professional CIA agent who takes a bullet for Okoye, despite how unnecessary it might have been, he was a likable character who took things in stride and adapted to any given situation. Never complaining, never asking why, just going with it. He even has his moment of heroism toward the end, which, frankly, was one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, where he's almost about to die, but is taking his glorified VR game to do the right thing and prevent assholes from causing chaos in the world. Just like a real American hero. From Britain. Honestly, I wish more characters like this were written, at least within the MCU.
Bro, you have to get out of there now!
How long have I got?
50%.
Put me back in.
I could easily go through the entire cast list, but I need to keep this review going, and I got the standouts for me. So now for the story. I'm mostly with it, apart from one specific detraction, made only worse by the last year or so. Why is there so much emphasis on liberating slaves in the 2010s? I mean, not specifically slaves, just oppressed black people. But I've got a few comments on this one. This feels like commentary on a non-issue. If it was more about whether or not Wakanda shares their tech and advancement with the world to better protect themselves against extraterrestrial threats, you know, the threats that the MCU is building up for years now, then this might make sense.
To be judge, jury, and executioner for people who are not our own.
Not wrong. But didn't life start right here on this continent?
And this is my other hot take. I fully expect to get lynched for this, but I don't think Killmonger makes a whole lot of sense, despite how great Jordan is in his performance. There's just something that I don't buy. He's a bloodthirsty killing machine, at least that's how his character seems to be built up to be, but he has this heart of gold to liberate the oppressed black people of the world. He's all about our people, my brothers and sisters, but he fully admits that he's killed plenty of them, including the chick he was banging just to gain an audience with T'Challa. Dude, what? And that's another big question I have. What took so long for Killmonger to go to Wakanda? The best I can tell, his ticket in was to bring in Claw, a known enemy of Wakanda. Why did he do heists with them and shit? He clearly knew where Wakanda was, so that wasn't the issue since he wasn't pressing Claw for the location. So what gives? What did I miss?
Money, bro. I know you're good for it. On our way back, just drop us off in Wakanda.
You know what I gotta say, boy?
Yeah, I do.
I've heard that the MCU films are best reviewed in hindsight, which, honestly, I'm starting to see more and more now as the truth. Now that the hype has died down, I do see the flaws a bit more, which is kind of a bummer. The characterizations do range from misguided to downright adolescent and underdeveloped. And the writing does have some jank to it, which kinda takes me out of the stakes a bit. But I still really enjoy it. The actors absolutely power through the material. The action sequences, say what you want about the CGI, Lord knows I did, but sometimes it can be imaginative. It's a serviceable superhero flick whose reach definitely kind of exceeds its grasp, but as an action flick, I'm thoroughly entertained. My honest rating for Black Panther, a 4 out of 5.
I am Prince T'Challa, son of King T'Challa!
You can do this, T'Challa!
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon.